The enduring legacy and influence of the case study house program in the United States on residential design is remarkable given that it was essentially a regional architecture movement centered in Southern California. In part as a response to the post-World War II housing shortage and building boom, Arts and Architecture magazine announced the Case Study House program in January of 1945. The editor at the time, John Entenza, handpicked a select group of architects to design and construct homes that were affordable, modern, and efficient. Entenza wrote in the program's announcement that the houses were required to be, quote, conceived within the spirit of our times, using, as far as is practicable, many war-born techniques and materials best suited to the expression of man's life in the modern world. In other words, the houses were to be devised to disseminate modernist ideas and design culture on a mass scale. Despite the fact that so few were built, many of the case study homes and the ideas they inspired persist today, including the Eames House shown here, designed by Charles and Ray Eames in 1949. The homes reflected post-war attitudes towards reinvention and social awareness. They helped to define the style of mid-century modernism, but they were much more than style. The open floor plans that the homes imagined decades ago are still seen today. They offered a new way of thinking about space and made modern design available and approachable for all. Their budgets were modest, which meant they had to employ off-the-shelf standardized materials, and they were small in scale. Open plans, blurred lines between inside and out, and a simple, honest use of materials were key to their economy. Here are 7 enduring lessons the Case Study House program offered, and a call to action for architects to consider developing their own case study homes. Lesson 1. Case study homes as teaching tools for the value of architecture. Few of the original case study homes were actually built, but the ones that were became immensely popular. The first 6 were toured by more than 368,000 people in 1946 and 1947. People were eager to experience the designs. Architects often rely on technical, abstract language and drawings that most have a hard time interpreting to describe space. These instruments don't accurately portray the physical reality of architecture in a way that a case study home would. For example, a reverse living concept, as the one employed in this home, may make implicit sense to an architect when visiting a particular site, but for a client to experience the building describes the concept in real terms. The benefits of living the living plane above street level is made explicit here. Lesson 2. Real solutions to real problems. Just as the housing shortage provided the impetus for the Case Study House program in 1945, the lack of affordable real estate, density restrictions, and underdeveloped housing stocks are problems affecting our communities today. Solving these difficult problems inherently takes more creative horsepower and consequently more design fee. A case study house can propose adaptable solutions to common needs, and model designs sold to many effectively amortize the design costs over a larger client base. Frequently, the only properties that are affordable for the average individual or family are the ones with the most latent liabilities. Sites that require special permitting, alternative construction procedures, or those that are bound by development restrictions are viewed as intractable problems to most. Infill housing schemes and accessory dwelling unit concepts, designed by architects, especially in urban areas, are 2 areas where the case study home could effect positive change. Lesson 3. The value of financial skin in the game. Arts and Architecture magazine initially agreed to commission the homes for the case study program. However, due to a lack of funds, the funding burden fell to each architect, charging them with the task of finding suitable clients, of which John Entenza was one. Borrowing from this model, it's entirely possible to solicit buy-in from interested clients or a personal need for a home by an architect to fund a case study model home. There's no substitute for the hard evidence and real-world current cost feedback that construction provides. A personal financial commitment to a project is a strong motivator too. Understanding the real costs of systems and construction incentivizes invention rather than a reliance on, potentially more expensive, common practice and conventional details. Having some skin in the game shows future clients you believe in the product too. Lesson 4. Regional prototypes for mass production. Even though this was an integral part of the A&A's design brief, the Case Study House program never delivered on the goal of mass production. Due in part to a shortage of building materials after the war and increasing opposition from builders eager to meet consumer demand for housing but unwilling to adopt unconventional residential building practices. Glazed walls, limited insulation, and seamless connections to the outdoor environment were other barriers to wider adoption. It was a hard concept to rationalize in many less temperate parts of the U.S. Yet the case study ideas persist to this day in moderate climates because they work well. They're comfortable. The regional case study is an interesting idea that could be applied to a localized mass production or prefab facility. Imagine architects intimately familiar with their regional climate bringing those hard-won lessons to bear on the problem of modern housing needs. Case study homes could achieve wide regional acceptance if their prototypes were as well suited to their climate as the Southern Californian modernists' designs were. Lesson 5. Product versus process. The case study houses were built to be toured and experienced by people. Although the reality of the program was such that the houses were one-off constructions, the intent was that they were to be examples, full-scale mock-ups, products. The notion of architecture as product is rejected by many architects because it's antithetical to the approach most of us rely on in our everyday practice, the design process. Yet increasingly, this process is only affordable to a select few. It's part of the reason architects are commissioned to work on fewer than 1% of the new homes constructed today in the U.S. The process of design we rely on isn't readily reducible to a known set of outcomes, and it's not linear. Information is gathered and synthesized by an individual or a firm's personal design process. It takes courage for a client to agree to an unfamiliar process and an implicit trust that their architect will deliver on their promise. Contrast this with the eminently familiar act of buying a product. With a case study house, the consumer can view, even experience the product, understand the cost, and quickly make a value judgment. Either the perceived value is there or it isn't. Products can build in profitability for the professional and affordability for the client. Eliminating the stressful sequence of bidding and price negotiation has benefits for both parties. For the client, it ties decisions to real costs. The architect can capitalize on their own efficiencies, investing in the design, and receive a royalty each time the design is sold. Profit can be built into the product, and once it's created, there's no inventory to store or maintain. If changes or customizations are required, they can be performed at a fixed hourly rate, again with integrated profit margins. Quibbling over invoices can be a thing of the past with a product model. And there's no finger pointing when bids come in high because the costs are known from the outset. Lesson 6. The perfect versus the good. Custom, one-off bespoke commissions are prized by any architect. Who would argue if asked to tailor every square inch of a home to a specific client's need? Although case study homes forfeit some customization, I would argue that it actually makes a home more marketable. The less owner-specific a home is, the more people it can accommodate in the future. Giving up a high level of customization helps keep the budget in line too. We can't let our struggle for the perfect be the enemy of the good. Design isn't a zero-sum game, with the efforts of architects and the benefits of design conferred to only certain problems. Thoughtful architecture can address the problems facing a wider spectrum of the population. Case study homes can be exploited for affordable but less than perfect sites. Who better to solve these problems than architects? Lesson 7. An Ethos of Experimentation. Most admirably, the case study house program embraced an ethos of experimentation. The designs reflected a willingness to step away from the traditional notions of home and try new things. Some were successful. The open plan, for example, still exists today, while others weren't. The things that didn't work told us something about the world and our acceptance of new building technologies in the home. To experiment with new living arrangements, novel materials, or more efficient ways of constructing common details is rewarding. When it goes right, the spoils can be incorporated into future production processes, and the finished product offers convincing proof. When it goes wrong, you know which direction to pivot. Either way, you've learned something in the process. When we choose to educate, making our daily work an instructive case study for all to learn from, we can all benefit. In this way, architecture can deliver on the promise of relevant, affordable housing solutions for all.